good afternoon and welcome everyone. I'm dialing in from Mauritius, which usually is very sunny, but today it's very cyclone weather-like. So for those of you who are joining here in Mauritius, I really hope that you're looking forward to this very, very interesting topic. My name is Priya. If you haven't met me before, I work here at Abhyas Institute of Universal Awareness, and I am an executive business developer and wellness specialist. So today's topic on our webinar series is a really, really interesting one. It's about emotions, food, and productivity. So before I jump more into the topic, I think it would be good for me to just kind of share a little bit about our webinars and what we do and why we do these webinars. All right. So, these webinars that we have here, we've been having them since January, and they're under the umbrella of mental health and well-being in a fast-paced world, which is the world that we all live in today. And so, when we do these webinars, it's really about creating this platform where we can bring together the community, a community together of like-minded individuals, where we can all learn together and expand our awareness based on topics that are set here by Abhyas. However, I do want to mention that these webinars are not technically designed to give you a solution per se, but saying that our panel members are always so generous that they always share little tips and tricks and sometimes some tools. So, to our lovely audience, have your pen and paper ready. If you think there's something really cool that you'd like to jot down and practice, by all means, you're welcome to do that. And so here at Abhyas, what's our vision? So for some people, maybe they're not familiar with what Abhyas is and what we do. So here at Abhyas, it is through the application of experiential knowledge that we envision a paradigm shift in society's perspective, equipping it with the ability to face the challenge as it is. And our mission is that we're committed to equip individuals with equal opportunities by providing professional training to impart courses on mental well-being, therefore creating a better future for everybody involved. And as our founder Namdev would say, all transformations have one thing in common: the turnaround in the perspective on what they have been through. So for those of you who are new to Zoom, just letting you know that if you can please keep yourself muted and of course keep video off. And please, please do use our chat to communicate and to engage with myself, with our panel member, and obviously with each other. If you have questions, if you have comments, please put them in the chat. I'll be moderating that and monitoring that along with the webinar at the same time. So, of course, it's always good to have comments coming through. And it's a space, this space that we have here on our webinar platform is to spark curiosity. And a topic like this about emotions, food, and productivity, I really believe does spark a lot of curiosity. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot today. So, let's jump into actually what is this topic about? So, this webinar we're going to be having today is all about exploring the connection between emotions, our eating habits, and the impact that these can have on our productivity in the workplace, whatever workplace that you work in, whatever professional setting you're in. So today I'm very honored to have with me Rebecca, who is joining us from Sydney in Australia. So welcome, Rebecca. So Rebecca is the owner at Changing Edge. She's the founder of this company. Rebecca has spent over 20 years in leadership roles in corporate and in not-for-profit organizations before deciding to focus on her passion for helping others through a well-being lens. Rebecca's personal experience is what has driven her to become a helping practitioner, qualified in numerous wellness fields and in therapies. A former competitive ice skater, Rebecca is a world championship level referee and judge, taking on roles around the world to give back to this unique sport. Welcome, Rebecca. It's really nice to have you on our platform today.
Thanks, Priya. Great to be here.
So, I thought what might be really great is to actually learn a little bit about your journey, What has been your journey like? What has been the pathways you have taken to get you to this amazing point in your life where you are now with this amazing company that you've created? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think from a child until my early 20s, I was a figure skater. So nutrition, keeping it relevant to the topic, nutrition's always been important to me from a young age. Um, it was important to fuel my body so I had the energy to train and perform properly. We spent lots of time at the Academy of Sport being tested and learning about nutrition so we could perform at our best. And we also had to fuel ourselves to sustain long days. So, with early morning training, getting up at 4 every morning, followed by full days at school, more training, and then homework on repeat, it was really important to figure out this kind of aspect of life and routine and sustainability from a young age. So, that's I guess, flowed through my life with varying degrees of success as we've emerged through the different stages of work and different jobs and travel and all the rest of it. Um, there are also illnesses and injuries and things along the way, which means your body needed different things to rebuild and recover. And then when you add real life with like family, friends, socializing, and really just growing up, there's a lot that comes into play with the emotion and nutrition aspect as far as still being a really productive member of society and pursuing your passions. So I think after most of my working life has been spent in head office of national franchises. So the hours were long. There was a lot of travel, entertaining and meetings, lots of time out in regional towns that really don't have or didn't have back then a lot of infrastructure. You'd be lucky for anything to be open by the time you got to the next town after spending a day in a store in, somewhere 3 or 4 hours away. Um, so it really has been a balancing act throughout my career. There was one role where I spent almost 7 years where I was averaging 280 nights away from home each year. And that was just crazy. So during that time, there were so many nights when I'd leave the office, having been tied up all day, missing lunch, um, wondering what I could find for dinner. And quite often there'd be nothing left open apart from pizza. Uh, there'd be really, no kitchens in your hotel rooms, no opportunity to really get that healthy meal, or even these days, picking up a pre-prepared salad or something from the supermarket. The supermarkets weren't even open that late back then. So I think the world is a lot easier to navigate in this day and age. But back then, doing road trips, constantly traveling, entertaining a lot as well. So, when you're in roles, customer facing or supplier facing, and everyone wants to see you when you're in town or when you're in the office, catch up if you live in different states or, that entertainment aspect of work, I think plays a big role in this as well. So, sometimes you're eating food because it's available, because, you're making small talk in a conference break, or you don't know when you're going to find your next meal, if something's going to be open at the next space. So, or when your next opportunity to grab a break's going to be. So it's not always following our schedules and our timelines. Um, we have to be adaptable, I guess, to our situations as well. And that's something I definitely found throughout my career. And then on top of that, you're still doing super long days because when you're doing all this travel and conferencing and meetings and whatever, your workload isn't stopping. So there's the day-to-day stuff that still needs to be done. So that's late at night and early mornings and, again, on repeat. So I
Yes.
think once I moved on from those kinds of roles, and I was home more, it became much easier to regain control over my food intake, and my body felt healthier within a year again, so that was great. And really, that was one of the reasons why I started my business was to help others manage their time on the corporate hamster wheel much better than I did.
That's really interesting. And I think it's really very valid what you're talking about here, that when an individual is grappling with the intense scheduling, with the intense travel, it really becomes a case of like, well, you have to just see what's available to eat before you can really do anything about it. And, I think this is actually a good point to ask our audience a question. And then I have another question for you, Rebecca, which we can come to shortly as well. But for that audience, please use the chat. Just take a couple of moments for this question. Interested in knowing what's one food or meal that always makes you feel grounded and balanced? So take as much time as you need to kind of ponder upon that, audience, and please pop your answers into the chat. I will be monitoring the chat as well, and it'll actually help us to make these conversations even richer, because the more feedback we can get from our audience, the more we can expand these sorts of conversations. So, as the audience has some time to kind of reflect on that, I'll come back to you, Rebecca. And so you mentioned how that the experiences you had in your career, how it has helped to drive you to give you the motivation and the inspiration to create your business today. So in this space that you are now in, which is a really amazing place to be in as well, and you've learned so much about yourself, and now you are giving so much support to people who are, as I'll say the same words, on the corporate hamster wheel. Um, what have you been sharing with people about the connection between food and emotions and their impact on productivity?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a lot in that space, and I think one of the biggest things and the first things we need to recognize is that we're all individuals. So we all have different triggers, different comfort foods, different schedules. We work differently. So I think recognizing the uniqueness of individuals is probably the biggest thing for starters. So, I mean, do we eat without intention or do we eat when we're hungry? How often do we reach for comfort food and what is that? Um, then think about why we reach for that comfort food. So I think, you know, thinking about questions like, are our food choices positively supporting us, or are they a way of helping us cope with life or our situation or get through our day? Um, I think some of those fundamental questions are probably the biggest thing. I mean, I know I still have times when I travel now, more often for skating, when it's difficult to manage all these aspects of life and the old challenges represent. But at least now I'm much more aware of the issues, and it's also not for prolonged periods. So I think sharing that insight with people about awareness is, so important. But then you do also need to act on it as well. So, but being realistic. So, I think it's important also to realize and recognize that our bodies react differently to food and to stress and to emotion. So, recognizing that people have dietary restrictions and requirements, adds complexity to the topic. Anything from a dislike of a particular food to far more serious situations, such as being celiac or diabetic, from fad diets to ethical preferences like being vegan. Everyone's different. And I think it's really important to keep in mind these factors and realize that that's the nature of us all being individuals. So I think I find a lot with people, it's just about recognizing and really drilling into what individuals need and giving them space to know that whatever their needs are, that's okay. Quite often we try to fit in those frameworks we find online or what social media is telling us to do or what the fad crave is, at the moment. But I think learning to listen to yourself and listen to your own body and see what enables you to be the best version of you that you can be is really what we should be listening to.
Mm. Yes, no, that's a really good point. And I think it would be really great for us to maybe unpack this, because this can be so challenging As you mentioned, that we have these eating habits. And I think that's maybe we could expand a little bit more on that. How do you
Mhm.
see eating habits forming? Where do they come from? Maybe let's start with
Yeah,
that and we'll see how that unfolds.
absolutely. So I
Mhm.
think over the years, I've seen many different ways in which the food and emotion relationship manifests. So the most common experiences that I've found are stress triggers. So using food to numb or to escape stressful situations. Boredom. If you're bored, what do? You go to the kitchen or grab a snack or grab a drink or whatever it might be. Boredom is another key trigger that I've come across. Procrastination's another big one. So people procrastinating, going, oh, I really need to do this. Oh, I'll just get a cup of tea first, or I'll just get a coffee, or oh, I'll just grab a chocolate, or just. So procrastination, absolutely. Anxiety also. So, that sugar rush or, the calming tea or whatever you think is going to help make that better. Or even in relation to anxiety, trying to look like you fit in, but knowing that maybe that's not the best situation for you, or even the impact of social activities like, dinners at places that aren't what you'd normally do, or isn't going to sit right in your tummy, or whatever that looks like. Or maybe it's really late or really early, and then I guess also on the flip side of that, that some people are so busy, they just don't remember to eat. So, roles can be so demanding and deadlines so tight that you miss meals regularly. I remember when I was working from home, quite a number of years ago, way before COVID and working from home became a thing. I used to work from home on the days when I wasn't away. And I would often walk into my office in the morning and get up when it got dark because you're just so busy being productive. Um, and again, that's also not sustainable in that sense. And you're probably not getting the best out of yourself without, looking up and taking a break during the day. So I think, there are a lot of ways in which emotions impact the food we consume, but I think it's also important, sorry to digress a little bit, but to recognize that food impacts our emotions as well. So it works both ways. So it's not just purely in the scientific sense, but through the emotions and the memories that food elicit. So, we all have foods that have memories attached, So maybe it's like the cake that grandma used to make, or the meal we had on our first date with our partner, or food from holidays we've taken, traveling the world or somewhere exciting. Celebrations with family. There are so many memories attached to what we eat. Or there could be excitement about what a meal can bring. So, an exciting event coming up or a celebration of some description as well. So, I think, that there are so many foods that elicit emotion from us, but sometimes this can also be negative. So, the flip side is that there are likely foods that we associate with negative emotions or things we eat and then feel guilty about. So I saw something the other day which cracked me up. So it was a meme sharing the word snackadent. And it was defined as when you accidentally eat the whole packet. So foods and emotions are really intertwined. And I just thought, yeah, that's actually quite relevant to so many people, myself included. I have snackadents all the time. So yeah, to me, the first step of harnessing the relationship between emotions and food is, when it comes to productivity, is being aware of these relationships and the patterns that we can fall into.
Oh, definitely. No, very a valid point you mentioned there. And I guess so we've got a comment coming through. Good afternoon. For me personally, what keeps me grounded is dal, roti, which is an Indian bread, and
Yum.
rice. So that's good.
I'm in. I'm in. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, it looks, I think it's really, really fascinating. You mentioned two components, which I think we could maybe delve a little bit further into. The first component you mentioned, which was about that we tend to want to gravitate to eat certain foods that have certain memories. So I want
Mm.
to ask you here, do you think, where do you think that memory is coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the feeling, memories are feelings, really, that just have a place and a time attached, and people. So I think people are really formative in our memories, and that really brings the emotion to the forefront. And thinking about what we experienced, what did we taste, what did we smell, what did we touch during that time? And as life changes and there are things you want to relive, food is an amazing way of, triggering those memories and I guess feeling the comfort attached. On the flip side, you could get, I heard someone say, pineapple on a pizza the other day. It just, kills them. So, we do have all kinds of memories that, attached to our food. And, human nature is emotional. Like, we need to recognize that everything we do in life helps form us into the people that we are and what how we express ourselves and how we share with the world. So, and I think, emotion, family, food, our life experience is key to all that.
Absolutely, definitely agree with you there. So, I'm interested in, I guess, understanding a little bit more when you mentioned that we've got to become aware of what it is that we are eating. So, it's not necessarily just about what it is you're eating, but it's about whether you're eating it consciously.
Mm.
So, would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on what it means to eat food more consciously?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think going back to, like I was saying, when you're procrastinating or when you're sad or anxious or, the American sitcom thing of something sad, so you go to the ice cream and you get the whole tub of ice cream and a spoon. Like, I mean, not quite something that's as prevalent here, I don't think, but there are stereotypes with this kind of stuff as well. So I think harnessing that relationship between emotions and food, sometimes we're aware of the triggers and sometimes we're not. So I guess being aware of the patterns that we fall into, are we eating because we're hungry or because maybe we should eat because we need a break or just because that's what we always do when something like this happens and triggers us? So I think we need to be able to identify our emotions and the impacts they have on us. And in so many cases, some of those emotions, the impact is something that causes a result going to get a snack or going to the kitchen or having something that comforts us. So I think we need to take note of the actions that we take in the context of today's discussion. So, we can do some small things to set us up for success in this space, such as, packing healthy or even just healthier snacks to take to work or on trips if we know that things during the day could get really busy or stressful or whatever that's going to look like. Prepare ourselves that we think, okay, today's going to be a tough day. I'm going to need something to fuel myself and fuel myself in a good way so I can cope with these things productively and positively and not let them get the better of me. So I think little nice add-on to that preparing and planning can also help with and practicality aspect. Like healthy food can be expensive at times, so sometimes more difficult to access. So preparing and planning ahead can be really beneficial. Even fresh pineapple as an example, great thing to snack on. But do you rock into work with a whole pineapple and a massive knife? Like it's probably something that's a lot easier and a lot more beneficial to prepare at home and bring in something to be prepared. I think getting back to your question, sorry, I digress a little bit. Having a schedule, so planning your meals and snacks can help with making sure that we do take breaks throughout our day and refocus and, stay refreshed. Don't sort of get down one rabbit hole in the work that we're doing. Keep our perspectives fresh. Um, Keep ourselves alive and really invigorated by the work that we're doing as well. So I think being intentional about having some breaks, having some, healthy snacks. Some hotels, even at conferences now, are putting out little bowls of nuts as opposed to those bowls of lollies. So, um, when you're just sitting there unintentionally snacking on whatever it is that's in front of you, trying to, if you know you're someone who's prone to, doing that, try to do it with something a bit better for you. I think also meal prepping. So knowing what you're planning to eat during the day, or taking a healthy lunch to work, or if you know you have a really busy day or a long day, or you'll get home late and you won't feel like cooking, or you won't have time to cook. You have something healthy there ready to go. So I think staying aware of how we respond to emotional situations such as stress or being upset. And I think also what's important as an add-on there is to think about how we feel after eating certain foods. So some foods will feel better in us than others, and be more beneficial, whereas others will make us feel like we want to reach for more, and that comes back to that unintentional eating potentially, and the snackadents that we're harping on about. That they're just so relevant. I couldn't believe it when I read that. So I think how often you experience particular triggers, and do they have common or repetitive causes? What can you do to address those triggers? You could resolve the issue or do something to reduce the frequency and break the pattern. So then you're becoming more intentional in your actions as well. And thinking about how we feel when we feel most productive or do our best work. So, what do we feel before, during, and after? A really good session at work or a really good meeting, or, how do we set ourselves up to be in that state and set ourselves up for success? So, I think planning, knowing how your day or your week is going to look, I mean, obviously things change, but, having an idea and preparing accordingly. Um, One funny thing, I worked in supermarket industry for many years, and thinking about when you go to the supermarket is actually really relevant to this topic as well. So the worst time to go, not for the supermarkets, but for individuals, is when you're hungry. So you tend to put more in your baskets or trolleys, and when you shop when you're hungry, and that food also tends to fall more into the immediate satisfaction kind of category, rather than the better for you category. So being intentional about when you do your shopping, what you shop for, and not just, flying by the seat of your pants all the time, I think. Um, from a workplace perspective, potentially also providing healthy snacks for our teams, or considering the lunch options in, those organizations with a cafe or canteen or access to local foods. Thinking about special event catering, or doing deals with local eateries for staff discounts at places that are going to fuel them better, and really help with productivity and the health and well-being of the individuals within your organization. So, think about when you're going to reach for a snack during the day. Can you substitute that also with a walk or a stretch break if the reason you're reaching for that snack isn't because of hunger? Or maybe even a short meditation or something. Um, I know one of my things I do to help with the unintentional eating is quite often at skating competitions we have meetings, and um, we have sections of downtime at events. So it might be between the meeting and the competition, or it might be between the practice and the meeting. We don't have electronic communication devices with us when we're judging, or as soon as that competition starts, we just don't. But for me, in the periods before that, or even after, when you're sort of sitting there waiting for the competition to start or waiting for the results after everything's finished, not when we're at the rink. But we might be in the judges' room or we might be back at the hotel waiting for the bus or whatever. I often sit on my phone and look at, cute dog videos on Instagram or something. Instead of reaching for the cake and just unintentionally, fueling myself with food that isn't going to be good for me for the job I'm there to do, because I'll have that sugar peak and then I'll hit the slump when I'm still needing to be paying attention and giving my all to assessing the skaters. Um, you know, I I've prepared everything I need to prepare before I go to the event. So really it's my way of having some downtime, taking my mind off the stress of the situation, but doing something that isn't just fueling myself in a way that's not going to benefit me in the work that I'm needing to do. So, I think finally on that particular topic, not being too restrictive. So maintaining the balanced diet, eating regularly and rewarding yourself occasionally, absolutely. Um, but not getting too down on yourself when you have that feeling of guilt if you don't stick to your plan. We need to be kind to ourselves and acknowledge how we feel, but then move on, really. So I think intention and awareness is so, so important in this topic.
Definitely. And I think, you've really explained that beautifully that we need to be very intentional about the food choices that we make. And I mean, it got me thinking like and reflecting that when I tend to be really, really hungry, I also want to try and just do like a bit of a quick fix. But I know that that quick fix is going to have a quick drop. So it's not
Absolutely.
really a
And
quick
yet we
fix.
still fall for it. We still do it, don't
Yes.
we?
It's the devil in disguise. It's a bit like that.
100%.
And
100%.
I thought it was really fascinating, like you were mentioning earlier, actually about the role that food plays in terms of reliving memories. And
Yep.
I was interested in understanding from you. So we have good food that elicits good memories, but we
Yep.
also have bad food that elicits bad memories, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. So when we talk about being intentional, what do you think we need to, I guess, address within really to help us move in that direction of being more intentional? And of course, realizing that we're choosing something that is not actually going to be beneficial to us. So, what do we need to do to, make that change inside, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we need to listen to ourselves. Um, Quite often, our bodies give us subtle signals about exactly as you said, I know this isn't going to be good for me and I'm going to pay for it later. Um, but we still do it. So I think listening to ourselves, being aware of what our habits are, what our traits are, and being intentional with our fueling is really, really important. And I think on the memories aspect of that, memories are tricky because we tend to remember the really good, the really bad, and we're not so in tune with the more subtle memories that we like. Sometimes we'll eat something and go, "Oh yeah, I remember that that wasn't great for me," or I felt that bloating or that food coma or something coming on after I ate that last time. So I think you know thinking about how the spikes in your blood sugar and energy slumps impact your work, trying to remember how it felt to battle through that afternoon at work after you had a huge lunch and you really shouldn't have that day. Um, Thinking about, do you feel heavy or bloated or what you just ate? Are you still hungry? So did it not hit the spot? Um, do you feel like
Hi, sorry. I just wanted to let everyone know if you're still here on this platform that Rebecca is living in an area where there is a big storm at the moment. So it's quite possible her internet may have um, lagged a little bit or disconnected for a moment. So whilst we're waiting for her to come back on the platform, I thought it would be good to maybe ask another question of our audience. Very interested in you sharing your views, audience. When Rebecca was talking about being aware or understanding of what foods we eat before a situation, during a situation, and after the situation. If we can have a better understanding of that, that can help us understand our eating habits a little bit better. So, audience, if you want to take a moment or two reflecting on this, and if you feel comfortable, maybe you can share in the chat as well. And as our audience is doing that, what I might do is, I guess, do a bit of a summary of what Rebecca's been saying. So, we talked about that we have memories that are connected to the type of food that we tend to want to eat. So there are foods that have good memories attached to it, or they elicit good memories within us. And then there are foods that elicit bad memories within us as well. So, really, when it comes to, she mentioned very well that we have traits and patterns, and this is how we tend to elicit these changes within ourselves. And we want to reach for something that makes us feel good, or we equally want to reach for something that makes us feel bad. So these memories are really happening within the body because ultimately our body is the one that is giving us these signals. And we have an opportunity here to become very, very subtle and to really listen with deeper awareness of what's going on within ourselves. So she's shared some amazing points here. And I'm very much hoping that she'll be able to come back onto the platform soon, as we do have some more exciting things to share with us, with all of you. And I guess the other element that we talked about here in the first part of our webinar was about having this balance between eating healthy, but also being adaptive to the environment that you are in. Because ultimately, whatever is happening around you, if it is triggering you, it is because there is something within that we need to look at in further detail, rather than using the food to numb or to suppress whatever it is that is coming to the surface. So I can see here in the chat that Vipin, thank you, Vipin, for your comment. Vipin has just mentioned that he learned sattvic food eating and how to eat in general from Abhyas, and the impact it had in changing his thoughts. Ah, lovely. We have Rebecca back with us now on the platform. We will come back to Vipin again shortly, but I would like to, yes. Hi, Rebecca, welcome back.
So sorry. I shouldn't
It's
have
okay.
warned you that we had a storm earlier
You
because
did. You did. It's all good.
I
It's
jinxed
all
it.
good.
Quite often, to be honest, I've never had it completely go down before, but I thought, better prepared than not, and then it won't happen, but it did happen. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's all good. We had a nice little summary of what you were sharing with us, and now we can hand it back to you.
Oh gosh, sorry. So I'm not
Okay.
quite sure where it dropped out, but I think we're sort of saying about, if what we're eating was fueling us appropriately,
Yes.
and how that made us feel. So, was it too much, or was it not enough, or you know, do thinking about the impact of time of day eating as well. There are different foods that are good during the day and different foods that are potentially going to interrupt our sleep patterns. So foods digest differently. And I think it's important to be aware of that as well, and the impact that that can have on the next day, even. So I think we're quite au fait with like the impacts of having caffeine later in the day as well. And we think about that, but foods and the timing of our meals impact the quality of our sleep and rest and reset as well. So um, I really think um, fueling ourselves to get through the day and the week, we need appropriate energy and hydration. I think hydration is something that we quite often forget. Reaching for the water with some lemon juice in it or something as opposed to the can of Coke or whatever that's going to be. Obviously, Coke has its time and its place as well, but not all the time. These sugary drinks really can play havoc as well. So, trying to increase the fresh foods, the fruit and the vegetables are really important. Trying to achieve our correct intakes of vitamins and minerals, which is much easier to do by eating fresh and home cooked foods rather than highly processed foods. So, fueling ourselves properly helps with our mental alertness and focus. So it enables us to think clearly and be more creative, which are obviously qualities that val are valued by organizations. So, giving ourselves the stamina to perform at our best each and every day and not just crash when we get home after a hard day as well. Our families appreciate it when we still have energy to communicate and do things when we get home. So, thinking about the timing of our meals, while everyone can find rules of thumb on the internet, and, we think about the difference in our schedules, like someone working 9 to 5 compared to someone working night shift, compared to an athlete getting up early in the morning to train. Um, it comes back to remembering that we're individuals and different things, different schedules, different times, different foods at different times are going to work better for each of us differently. So, yeah, I think
Definitely.
that's probably the
Mm.
nutshell of that one.
Oh,
Sorry that it
that's
was in two
amazing.
parts.
No, that's fine. No, that's amazing. I mean, I'm just, I'm reflecting on this element that you were mentioning about, of course, being intentional about what we eat, having food plans in place. And I love what you were saying about picking the best time to go shopping because you're absolutely right. That has a huge impact. We can make so many unconscious purchasing choices when we're really
Oh,
hungry.
yeah.
I know I will have to make sure I always avoid the candy aisle because that's a
Yep.
dangerous place for me. So I'm really interested actually in hearing from you, Rebecca. As you mentioned, we live in such a fast-paced world, and people are gravitating more and more towards things that are easy to prepare, are simple, are quick, convenient, and we've of course spoken about the disadvantages of eating foods that are processed. We call that dead food because it has just a quick fix, a quick lift of energy, and then you have a sudden drop, which becomes very difficult to recover from because it affects your blood sugar levels. What I'm interested in knowing, Rebecca, is do you think the pace at which you eat your food and the environment that you prepare within which you eat also has an impact on your emotions and productivity? Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things I fell into in a really bad way was you would just grab what you could and eat at your desk, not move, and not moving your body after you've eaten as well is a really big challenge. Your body needs to move to digest as well. So not only do you get stiff and you get bad posture and you sore shoulders, and I'm someone I carry my stress in my neck and shoulders as well. So that's a double whammy. If I'm sitting hunched over the computer all day and I'm doing that, and then I'm just grabbing the snack I brought with me and eating at my desk, and I'm still not moving. I think that's where one of the things about, um, grabbing your apple or grabbing whatever it is that you've brought, and actually standing up and walking away from your desk just for a moment, can have such an important reset effect on your thought process, your productivity, and also your physical being. So, keeping it fresh, not getting bogged down. the timing of that and the place, as you said, is so important. The other thing is the speed at which we eat our food. Yeah, definitely. We all have moments where we're guilty of just absolutely shoveling it in because you just don't have time to waste. Um, but eating quickly isn't always good for us. So I think what one of the things also, I'm very conscious of trying to have a drink of water before I eat as well, because quite often we mistake hunger and thirst. We feel hungry, but we're actually dehydrated. So trying to make sure we keep that water intake up during the day will also reduce the food intake, the unintentional food intake that we were talking about earlier. So um, I think just having that water bottle on our desk, or even I got to a point at one stage where I was just keeping a glass on my desk. So I would have to get up and go and refill it. But that's a trade-off as well, right? Because then sometimes you don't bother getting up to go refill it and you just don't drink anything, which isn't a good idea. So just finding what works for you, just to try to keep hydrated throughout the day as well, because that's really important. And then that can also help slow down the speed at which we eat our food and allow for better digestion too.
So, would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on the speed at which we eat our food and the environment within which we should be eating so that
Yep.
we're more intentional?
Absolutely. So, um, I think in the context of work, and because that's a lot of why we're here, um, trying to get outdoors. If you can, like, if you've got somewhere nice to be, taking that opportunity to actually take your drink and your snack or your lunch or whatever it is outdoors, to get some of that fresh air. uh, Work environments are so different, but I know some of the ones I've been in are so heavily air conditioned that just getting some fresh air is so important. Getting some sunshine during the day. We don't need to stand out in the middle of the sun for hours on end, but getting that little hit and that revitalization of vitamin D as well, like really important. Being a little bit more intentional with our exposure to nature, I think is really important, really beneficial. So if you have the opportunity to do that, I mean, a lot of people I speak with say, if you have half an hour for lunch, go for a 20-minute walk, go do that. You still have time to eat. It doesn't take that long to eat a sandwich or whatever it is that you have, but just getting your body moving is really beneficial for reset as well, and also maintaining your personal health. So, um, keeping moving, not just, you know, doing the shovel, trying to eat at a considered pace and enjoy the meals that we have. Think about what they mean and the nutrition you're getting from them and what memories they might elicit, and really set yourself up for a next good working phase. I think also eating at home. Quite often, people are eating on their couches and just watching TV, not having those conversations with their loved ones or whoever it might be. But while there's nothing wrong with that, at times it's not good to do all the time. So just trying to be intentional with the way we use the time that we spend um, eating, make more memories, have conversations, connect with people. If there are people in your office also that eat on the same schedule as you, it's a wonderful opportunity to connect and support each other, build that community, and really be there for each other. I think, you know, it's we've come so much further than organisations providing a fruit basket and access to an employee assistance program to help, to say, oh, we're done and, you can now perform at your best. It's about creating safe workspaces, right? So Safety is more than just physical safety. It's creating emotionally safe workplaces. So places where your teams feel safe to talk and share their challenges and feel supported. So we all have challenging times in our lives, and the organizations who thrive are the ones who work to support their teams and build positive communities. So it's really about culture. The employee experience impacts customer experience, right? So in this competitive world, experience management is crucially important. So as leaders, we need to be authentic and approachable. And as far as, where do we eat? How fast do we eat? Um, us as team members also can really take advantage of that time and that space. And organizations should support and facilitate that to enable people to build those connections and have that human interaction. Take that moment and, you know, be part be part of the community that you work in. So I think, there's so much to these topics. We could talk all
Definitely.
day
We
about
can.
these ideas, but I think it comes
Definitely.
back to, being intentional, taking advantage, being human, being authentic, and supporting each other.
Absolutely, Rebecca. And it kind of just got me thinking a little bit about the time that I had in my career previously. So I also worked in the corporate world previously. And I remember before I became a manager, I would always see my manager eating their food at their desk. And as a result of that, like they were doing because that was what they could do and that was the best they knew. But I also noticed all the other team members would end up doing the same. So that
Yep.
manager set an expectation unconsciously,
100%.
but they set an expectation that that's what everybody does, so I should do the same. When I
Yep.
became a manager, I would take 30 minutes and I would leave my desk and go outside, sit under a tree or sit in the grass or, by the
Yep.
plants or whatever, and just sit there and eat in silence. So and that's really just changed people because the people that I was managing would do the same. They'd be like, "Hey, Priya, I'm heading out for 30 minutes to go get some lunch." I'll be like, "That's great. Go enjoy your lunch. I'll see you later." So
Absolutely.
you are absolutely right about saying that as leaders, we are the ones who set that culture. We set that from the beginning. We set that example. So we need to become intentional with what we eat and how we behave. And so there's one more question I have to ask. Do you believe that the pace at which we eat has the potential to impact our patterns and our traits? And if that's the case, how do you believe it can take us to becoming more aware of our emotions? Thank you.
Ooh, that's a big question.
Purely from
Look,
experience. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, a- as we know, this is all just purely my experience. I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a neuroscientist or whatever. So I'm not a doctor. So none of this is advice, as you said at the start. It's all just experience. And I think what I found is there are so many facets of what we do. Eating and pace and all that kind of stuff is just one of them. Sometimes, exactly as you said in your corporate example, the world in which we live, the environment in which we operate, the office in which we work, it molds us. And I think being aware of that and changing that pace for ourselves at times definitely has an impact and can lead to better productivity, better outcomes, better experiences for each of us because we all operate differently. We all need different things and we all respond better to different environments, different circumstances. I think, as I said earlier, when I was working from home, I was so productive because no one was standing in my office door wanting to have a chat. You know, it was an amazing, like I worked really well that way. And I also worked really well at night in hotel rooms or in airport lounges or on planes. Whereas one girlfriend in particular, I remember one time was trying to work from home and she just could not do it. She's just not wired that way to self-supervise. She was doing all the washing, she was cleaning the house, she was doing anything she could but work. And, I remember her trying to explain all this kind of stuff to me. And, I think recognizing that we all do things differently and we all have different strengths, and pace and speed is just one of those factors that influence that. Um, I think that's a long way around sort of agreeing with you and saying, but maybe not for everyone. Um, you know, Different people work in different ways. But I think one of the things that I have found really beneficial, as I think I've become a lot more self-aware, is slowing down and stopping at those moments, taking that break and being more intentional with everything I'm doing to allow me to reset and come back to things with fresh eyes. So I think what you're saying for me personally, I completely agree with. Um, I've seen others where, like, that interruption, that distraction really, and for me also sometimes, like, you're in a rhythm. Disrupting that rhythm isn't good. You just need to get that project out and you're really on fire with it in that particular day. So on that day, yeah, absolutely go fast and get it done if you're feeling amazing about it. But I think that's also back to what we were saying is remember what makes you feel good and try to replicate that when you need to. So if it's a pumping out a project day and you're feeling on fire, recognize that, feel into it, and go for it. Whereas if it's just a normal day, yeah, take time to smell the roses, be at one with nature, get some sunshine, and be a bit more intentional about taking some time out.
Definitely. Yes. I mean, I think that's a really good point you mentioned there. I guess it's also, whenever we have patterns within us, when it comes to slowing down, which you've mentioned, and that's very, very important, um, that these patterns are very much in our body because our bodies are so intelligent. So these patterns are very much in our body. And until we actually slow down, and you mentioned disrupting, that's perfect. That's exactly right. So if we're able to monitor ourselves by slowing down, we're monitoring everything within ourselves.
Yeah.
And especially when we're eating, that can really make a huge shift because we can learn more about our patterns. And as you said, that it does take having that practice, becoming intentional and building that awareness comes with practice. So I think that's so fascinating. So for those of you who do live here in Mauritius, and as per the comment that was, I think, Rebecca, your internet may have timed out during that time. But one of our members here who's in Mauritius was mentioning that he learned about sattvic food cooking, sattvic food eating, and also learning the technique of how to eat. So if this webinar has been interesting to you and you live here in Mauritius, please do get in touch with us because we can share more. And the good news is for those who are based international, we have retreats here as well at Abhyas. And at these retreats, you have an opportunity to learn these aspects, these concepts, and take it home with you. So these are concepts and aspects that really apply to everybody because everybody has emotions, everybody eats, and everybody wants to be productive. And as Rebecca has beautifully said at many points through our webinar today, that everybody is different. And it's really about understanding what works for you. So it's not about, calling out what food's good to eat or what's bad to eat or don't have this or don't have that, but it's really just you understanding and becoming aware of your body and the impact that food has on your body and your emotional state. So absolutely, Rebecca, I've learned so much from you, and I do hope our audience have learned a lot as well. And given that we have 1 minute left, I think I will close our webinar with just a couple of last points. So who we are at Abhyas and where we're located, that'll just come up on our screen now. And of course, if you've enjoyed our webinar today, please do follow us on LinkedIn. The link is at the bottom right corner of the screen, a QR code. So all of our webinars that we have happening, they're going to be promoted in our LinkedIn profile. And if you're interested in exploring more about what we do here at Abhyas, which includes, of course, our upcoming retreats, where we share with you more about these practices where you can become more intentional about your eating habits, about your actions, and really develop that optimized performance, then please do have a look at our website, which is in the bottom left corner of the screen, www.abhyas.mu. And if you enjoyed today's webinar and you want to also learn about the previous webinars we've had in this series, then good news is we have our YouTube channel. So that is Abhyas Mauritius. So if you type that into YouTube, you will be able to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can see all of our previously recorded webinars as well. We've been very lucky to have such a wide array of amazing panel members share their insights. And every webinar that I get to moderate, I'm in that privileged position to learn from our panel members has been always rewarding for me. So I just want to finish off by saying that our next webinar we have coming up next Tuesday is on the topic of financial stress and mental health. So if that's of interest to you, please do tune in and of course share it with as many of your colleagues and friends as you feel will benefit. And we'll just end today's webinar on one quote by our founder, Namdeo. The highest peak of one's performance can only be achieved through synchronization of body and of mind. Well, thank you so much, everyone. A big thank you to Rebecca for being on this platform and for being so amazing with answering all the questions I was sending your way.
No, thank you for having me, and thank you for your commitment to, helping us all be better.
I'm so honored. Thank you, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you all again soon on this platform. Have a great afternoon. Bye for now. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.